Ladies and gentlemen, when you first watch this channel, you'll get a video of me saying that we're going to have a catastrophic stock market crash. I said this in 2021, okay? 2022 was a terrible, terrible year for the NASDAQ and the stock market, Dow in general, okay? Things have gone up, but this is an illusion, like the illusion of access that Hunter and Joe gave to business associates in potential bribery schemes. We have a terrible economy. And the reason is because we have real wages down for most of Biden's tenure. We have still shortages and still inflation for rent, for energy, for food. One of the major trucking companies in the country just went out of business. We can go on forever, but the issue is, who pushed to shut down the economy? Democratic Party governors, the Washington Post, the New York Times, MSNBC, CNN, all the bureaucrats, all the smartest people in the room, specific bureaucrats worshipped by the wonderful, morally superior, highly educated, almost always apoplectic liberal Democrats who push to shut down the economy, then pump $10+ trillion in fiscal and monetary stimulus, diluting the money supply, but also creating the inflation. They then said inflation was temporary. Hit subscribe to this channel right now. Thank you for enjoying the last segment. That did quite well. Share this segment everywhere. We're just downgraded. And if you want to read my writing in The Hill, The Huffington Post, Salon, The Jerusalem Post, The Federalist, other publications, go to hagoodman.com. Read my Federalist article on the stock market crash that I predicted. We're going to, unfortunately, have a terrible, terrible stock market crash. I mean, we had a downturn in 2022 that I told everybody about. But this is just, well, let's just read this. New York Times, Fitch's debt downgrade is unlikely to deter borrowing, investors say. Okay. CNN, Fitch's historic downgrade may be embarrassing for the U.S., but not much more. Right. Wall Street Journal, Fitch's downgrade won't break Washington's tax spending habits. NBC News, White House blames GOP. Okay, it's 2023. He's going on 4 years now, and they're still blaming Republicans for all the terrible things that Biden has done. Okay, they say, well, the planet, he pumped 200 million barrels of strategic petroleum reserves. Take a second, morally superior among us, while you're yelling about the weather, to say, oh, gee, why did he pump 200 million barrels of strategic petroleum reserves? Gee, is that part of AOC's Green New Deal? The issue, ladies and gentlemen, is that we were just downgraded. And this is the second time. The first time was in 2011. Gee, who was in office? That's right, another Democrat, President Obama. And you can't blame the Great Recession because by 2011, the money was already pumped into the banks. We had already overcome that collapse, the financial collapse. But here, you can look. We'll just, CNN here. I love how they always spin everything because all of this. Can you imagine if it was Trump in office? But here, there may not be any lasting major negative ramifications for the surprise U.S. credit rating downgrade by Fitch this week. Not for the economy, not for the consumer, not for the government's ability to borrow. Yeah, there's going to be a negative impact for everyone. Okay? Because we're supposed to have they say we've circumvented a recession. Okay, we had a recession last year, but we still have real wages down, and they're down 3.5%. Real weekly earnings for production and non-supervisory employees, the measure that factcheck.org prefers, have declined 3.5% since Biden has been in office. You want to know when they were the highest? When Trump beginning of Trump's last year. When you shut down the economy, and this is why there will be a terrible market crash. They have pumped a tremendous amount, so much money into the economy from fiscal and monetary stimulus that we have not yet experienced, unfortunately, the repercussions and the consequences of doing so. We really haven't. The inflation we've seen, it's terrible. Real wages down most of Biden's term. Okay, and then a certain type of real wages are down 3.5%. But when you shut down economic activity, you cause shortages, labor shortages, shortages of goods and services, and inflation, and greater debt. Then you pump the stimulus in, and corporations still weather the turbulent market. The consumer still is able to buy goods and services, even though they're more expensive because the economy was opened up. We had record low poverty with Trump. We had record highs in household median income, and he brought home Americans. Every progressive, left-leaning person, every liberal should love Trump, not touch themselves in ecstasy for all the nonsensical indictments Democrats, not an impartial U.S. government, Democrats are leveling at Trump. Just for politics, because Hunter and Joe actually did commit crimes, just like Clinton with private servers, siphoning illegally top-secret intel onto them. You can't legally transfer classified data to servers. Anyway, it doesn't matter. I think that she'll likely be the 24 nominee. I don't know how. Mashed potato brains will be impeached. That could be one avenue. But anyway, I've been saying this. I wrote about this in the Federalist. We're downgraded now by Fitch, one of the top 3 credit agencies, along with Moody's and Standard & Poor's, from AAA rating to AA rating. Okay. This tells the world that fundamentally we have major problems in our economy. We've raised interest rates so quickly that it's astounding. I mean, the housing market is finally feeling all of this. But it's astounding that that the market hasn't crashed already. And if you pump $10 trillion plus 10 to 15 into the economy, you try to replicate economic activity after you've committed an economic sin of shutting down activity. You didn't have to shut down economic activity, which is what was advocated by Democrats. It was not a bipartisan thing. And if Republicans went along with it, that's because the entire American political establishment was led by the Democratic Party, even though Trump was in office. So what if Trump was in office? His last year in office was taken over by the most apoplectic mania that we've ever seen in recent history, recent U.S. history, modern U.S. history. It was every life lost was Trump's fault, although more people lost their lives the first year of Biden's tenure, of course. Democrats, I mean, it's unbelievable with the media, they get away with everything. We have too much debt. Inflation is too much of it, is a grandiose issue, especially for rent, food, and energy. Oil is going back up. Okay. What happens when oil gets to 100 after you've already raised interest rates to a point where you're going to get the country into a recession because you didn't think that inflation was a problem. So not only did they cause the inflation because of their policies, Democrats, but they then said in 2021 it wasn't a problem. And read the article that I wrote in the Federalist. It's on my website, hagoodman.com. You can go to the Federalist and read and go to my author page. You can type in H.A. Goodman Federalist. I talk about why we're heading towards a devastating stock market crash. But the entire planet knows that the credit rating of the U.S. just went down the toilet. Thanks, Democrats, the morally superior imbeciles among us. Give me your thoughts below. Hit subscribe.